Hello again, everybody. Welcome in to Pro Football Enterprises. I'm Ben Parker. I'm joined by Austin Freed and Shane Ratliff, and we really appreciate both of them. We really enjoy just getting together. It really is relaxing for us, getting together and hashing through our draft picks, draft prospects, and then the mock drafts that we'll be presenting from now until the draft as well. Thank you for joining us. We are talking Omar Cooper tonight, wide receiver from the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm going to go to Austin first here in just a minute, but I'll set the table based on the stats we have. As always, if you find a misprint or a typo somewhere, that's my fault. We try to weed out as many as we can. Here we go. Omar Cooper, height 6 foot flat, weight 200. 2024 numbers, 28 catches, almost 600 receiving yards. Of course, that pushes up the yards per catch at 21.2, and he had 7 touchdowns. Really had a breakout season this year in 2025 for the Hoosiers. Had 69 catches, almost 1,000 yards. Came up a little bit shy of that in terms of receiving yards. The YPR, of course, goes down with that much usage at 13.6, still a respectable number and 13 touchdowns. So really popped and almost doubled that number there. Austin, I said this right before we got on air. There's a good chance one or all three of us are going to disagree on how we view this player, but it's important to hash through it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are seeing. Trot it out there to us, Austin.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing I'm going first, or maybe it's bad because I'm not going to give one of these polarizing reviews or overviews on Omar Cooper. I have seen him as high on people's draft boards as the second best wide receiver in this draft class. I have seen him outside people's top 10. I am very much a fence sitting, middle of the road Andy here. I don't have a super strong opinion on him either way. In fact, what I'm going to say about him is I think y'all two might remember how I feel about this player, but I'm just going to start talking about him first. Is he reminded me a lot of Luther Burden.
I remember.
And Luther Burden is a much better athlete, just raw athlete than Cooper, but they have a lot of the same traits. So my comp for him is a less athletic, I think a more polished but a just purely less athletic, more refined Luther Burden. And that is going to be, for me, not a first round receiver. He has a lot of great tangibles, though, that are desirable from an NFL's perspective. He can play the slot. Looks definitely the most comfortable in the slot, but he runs a lot of big boy routes from the slot. He's not one of these guys who just sits in the slot and runs these short, kind of gimmicky spread, get him just in open space in zone coverage, and the ball's just going to find him. He runs a lot of slot fades, like a lot of crossers, a lot of switches with the like he'll end up on the outside because they'll run like a switch release. Him and like Surratt would do that a lot. So he does have the capability of running the big boy routes, and then he does catch a lot of screen passes, which is something that he has shown the ability to be really effective in with the ball in his hands. Even though he's not some burner, he is fast. He is not some joystick, like he's not like a Kadarius Tony, right?
Mm.
But he's very elusive and doesn't go down easily, even though he's not one of these big, super strong guys. He's very much your middle of the road kind of guy who is just of perfect proportions and athletics to kind of do it all. He doesn't necessarily lack anything in his game, I don't think. I don't think there's a pure knock you can have on him that truly like takes him down one or several pegs. But what he doesn't have is one thing you can really hang your hat on and say, this is why we want to go and get him in this draft. I think if there's anything that does fit that bill, it's just kind of his tenacity that he
Mm.
plays with. Because when he has the ball in his hands, he is very tough to bring down and he will fight for those extra yards, which I do really appreciate. As a receiver, though, like what it actually entails to have success and to get the ball in your hands in the next level, because it is much more difficult. than it is in college, especially, with the hash marks and things like that. He has some of the things that you like to see. He has a pretty solid release package. He has the ability to stack a corner. He has the ability to find soft spots in zones. And in man coverage, he has all these subtle body head fakes, nods. He'll drop the hips and then keep running through it to kind of get a corner to drop their hips, and then that suddenly good speed turns into a wide gap because he has kind of that sort of suddenness and ability to get you with his kind of head fakes and nods and shakes. So a lot of good stuff there. At the catch, I think he is an above average kind of guy, not an excellent guy. He did have a tremendous, I think, rate of caught balls, but he was receiving a lot of really good passes from Fernando Mendoza. Let's just call a spade here. And most of his drops I saw were like just pure concentration drops, which are very frustrating, but you can't expect none of those through the course of a couple years of college football. So overall, this is a player that I'm very much into. I like, but I don't love. Like there just isn't anything that I am truly enamored with about this player. He's very much like I had a grade on Luther Burden last year, just a really solid day two guy who's going to elevate your football team when he's on your team, but he's not going to be the focal point of your offense at any point in his career, I don't think.
That's excellent work, Austin. A lot of what I have is seeing a lot the same. So we'll see what Shane comes up with. I'm curious to see where you're interested in exactly drafting him. You mentioned day two. I'm going to see if it lines up with where I'm at. But yeah, a lot of that is the same. Shane, give us the lowdown here on Omar Cooper.
So, I mean, you hit on it, Ben. I actually think that Austin and I are very, very similar in this
Okay.
read. Um, like Austin said, he's a player when you watch the game, you'd take him on your team any day. Catches the ball well. I think Austin hit on. I personally think that if this was 5 years ago, this is a guy who's probably like a third down back. Like Austin said, he's tenacious when he gets the ball. The best part of his game is catching the screen and getting downhill. When he has the ball in his hand, he attacks 1,000% uh, better than I think even when you see him go get a ball. I think Austin hit on the different route tree he runs. I think he could get better at that, but I don't think Indiana asked him to run a lot of different routes. Uh, he projects for me, and you don't normally see this inside this Indiana off, but he's a very system guy. He had a great quarterback throwing to him this year. His numbers increase. Um, he does very well for what they do, but there's not a lot of offenses in the pro that are going to throw as many screen passes as that. He projects to me as a lot of like these middle round Oregon guys of the last couple of years. I think the biggest knock for him, as Austin said, he doesn't have one physical trait that just blows you away. You know, if he's two steps faster, I think his close range speed is excellent. I don't think he's like at a Julian Edelman level of like, where you just have a ridiculous 10-yard shuttle. But when he has to make that last cut to either get open in space or make the move off of a catch, I think he does excellent at that. Austin has him as a second day guy. I think he's late second day also because I think the draft process is going to be something that hurts him. I think his numbers are going to show probably even less than what they expect him to. I think his weight, based on when I saw him, and you're going over the height and weight, Ben, I'm not going to be surprised if he's under 6 foot. He's under 200 pounds when we weigh him. Uh, I think he plays very tough, and that makes it easier for you to project that that's how he's going to play in the NFL. Um, the other thing, normally if you're a guy that's kind of in that thing, I'm expecting you to do some sort of special teams work. I know now that's not as much in the NFL as it is, but that would have been a catch for this guy just a few years ago. You could have got him on a lot of different things because the tenacity is there. He has no problem going against anybody. Showed that in the Big Ten 2 years in a row. Uh, I just keep on hitting back, like Austin said, that there's no one specific physical trait that makes you go, man, I got to get him because he does really well at what he does. But I'm going to keep looking for somebody where I go, hey, he's pretty close to him, but he's this much faster or he's this much taller. And that's what the NFL does. They codify what your talent is, and then they look for somebody that's going to be the outlier on their positive end. And there's not enough traits for him where I think it really is going to help move him up. But like Austin said, I've read some places where guys think that this is going to be one of the greatest slot receivers in the NFL. This is what he does. Oh, you see him attack that. I don't see any trait that gets him that. Like I said, if he's a bigger guy, then I go, okay, he's going to be real tough for you to match up. But I mean, this is a guy that you're going to slide probably an undersized nickel on, and you're not going to worry about him. I think this guy can be covered, and I think that's going to drop him down the draft board.
That's very good, Shane. I thought we might end up farther apart on this player than we are, but we're fairly close here. So we'll hear from both of you in just a second. I'm sorry about the candy in my mouth. I'm battling a little bit of dry throat tonight, so thank you for putting up with it. Here we go. This guy is tough as nails, does not fade. Y'all both mentioned that. I mean, this guy, and you expect it from the Indiana guys, but I
Yeah.
especially see it from him. All right, so love it. The routes, good, consistent routes, sets up moves. Austin, you mentioned that. Well timed. He seems to really understand what he's doing on all the routes that he runs. I was impressed with that. The yak, yards after catch, consistently productive after a catch, whether it's zone, man, or screens, rarely goes down on first contact. Y'all both mentioned that. I'm so impressed with that part of it that this guy is a dog fighting for every yard. I really, you don't bring him down easy. He consistently gets yards after the catch. That means a lot to me. I do appreciate that. Hands, solid hands. To me, doesn't have the big hands to consistently kind of snatch the ball out of the air like some guys we see. But his hands do look strong and reliable, and he can make a lot of tough catches. I saw that as well, a lot of tough catches. You see that at all levels of football, though. The guys with the smaller hands, as pass catchers, do tend to struggle with snatching the ball out of the air. They tend to want a basket body catch more. A lot of times is due to hand size, so I'm okay with that. Size, physicality. This dude is physical in spades. Tough as any linebacker or safety. I mean, goodness gracious, he will go toe to toe. Really appreciate that. Really excited to watch his fire. The catch radius wingspan is really limited, unfortunately. Despite his ability to make tough catches, quarterbacks have to be a lot more accurate with him than they do a lot of other receivers. And that's true whether the pass is high. A lot of times he just can't reach it, whereas another receiver could. And sometimes that's even when it's a little bit behind him. He just doesn't have that reach to kind of reach back and snag it. So you are having a smaller target to throw at here in terms of radius, unfortunately. The speed, I think there's plenty of NFL speed to work with here, so I'm content. I think that's no problem, legit. But I didn't see anything elite or overwhelming. You both mentioned that. There's just no burn speed here at all to kind of make up for, if you will, the size differential. So plenty of speed to work with here. I don't feel like I'm suffering, but nothing extra beyond that. Blocking. When he knows the play is coming his way, he will always deliver a great initial hit. I mean, every time. If he knows that it's a run play coming to his side, he is going to pound somebody. He really relishes that. So I'm okay with that. And he does sell his routes well. So when the ball is being run to the other side, he'll sell the route. He'll make it look like it's a pass play. So I appreciate that. But he doesn't sustain his blocks at all. I mean, there's very little technique here. He's not going to stay on it. He's not going to stick with it. So you get one shot, pop, and that's it. And I didn't think blocking downfield was very good either. Sometimes they do these kind of run downfield and then kind of set up blocks farther down. I didn't see much of that out of him, unfortunately. Boundary work. He's on the smaller side. He's not going to win many jump balls in terms of consistently going and elevating above people. So not a lot of boundary work here that they asked him to do in terms of truly boundary catches and red zone catches. Having said that, there's one heck of a beautiful catch versus Penn State in the back of the end zone where he just rips it away, buddy. I mean, I ate it up, but he's not going to consistently win that type of battle at the NFL level, so they won't ask him to do that. Middle, good work over the middle, in the seam, Slot work versus zone is very good. You mentioned Austin, him settling into zones. Love it. His versus man, his slot work is solid. Again, he's not running away from people, but he can function versus zones very well and versus man to some degree. Was fairly content with that. Deep throws. A lot, I mean a lot, a lot of beautiful deep work against the early season teams. So that was like Indiana State, Old Dominion, a lot where he toasted them deep. He showed up very well there. Unfortunately, a lot of that disappeared later in the season as he got toward the Penn States and the Oregons and teams like that. His depth of target, depth of route started shrinking by a fair amount. He was still effective, but you could see the difference versus the other teams, how he was being used and how he started getting used against the other teams. So I ended up with a third to fourth round grade here on him. So I would probably be already looking at him mid third round, and from there on, it just depends on what else is there and what I need. That's where I ended up on Omar Cooper. All right, Austin, back to you. Final thoughts on Omar.
I did not expect to be high man on Cooper. That is surprising. I would be comfortable taking him right around pick 50, I think
Okay.
is about where I get comfortable taking him.
Okay.
And this is, and I think both of you mentioned, I know Shane mentioned the testing numbers are going to make a big heck of a lot of swing with him because
Right.
uh, it's hard to tell. He looks so average out there, right? And I mean that in like a benign way. I don't mean that as a knock on him. Like it's just so hard. You very rarely see him just blow by somebody, unless you're talking about those early kind of season games against the lesser teams where he is
Mhm.
just a better athlete. But against his peers, like his true peers, Big Ten schools and such, you very rarely see him pull away from people, but you very rarely see him just get truly like hawked down either.
Right.
He
Mm.
doesn't stand out as big or small, I don't think. Shane, you said you think he's a little smaller than this. To me, I could see this being a fairly accurate size for him. So I'm anticipating him measuring in, and this goes kind of back to the Luther Burden comp I made at the beginning. I think
Mhm.
it's going to be Burden-esque
Okay.
but slightly worse. Like I said, I think he's just a less of an athlete than Luther Burden, who measured in at 6 foot, 206 pounds, ran a 4.41. Right, so I'm expecting around probably 6 foot ish, 195 to 200 ish, and probably a 4.44, 4.46 maybe. Like I think that's what we're gonna get, and if that's what happens, that's where I'm comfortable taking him. If it does end up being worse than that, that does give me some pause, and I
Yeah.
think I would have to slide him down. But given what I'm anticipating to see out of him in the combine and at the pro day, I'm expecting to be pretty confident that he's going to be able to have success in the next level due to just the traits. And I think he's shown some refinement, as I mentioned earlier, like just mentally. I think he's a strong, smart player. So I think he's going to be able to see the field and play some meaningful snaps and have success, like true, legitimate success at the NFL level, I think.
That's a wise approach. I do look at him as a legit NFL receiver. I don't look at him as a guy I'm taking a risk on later.
Mhm.
I do see to me a legit pro guy sitting here. And one point to make too, to me, I feel like there's so much depth at wide receiver here. It's probably hurting the guy like him because with this many receivers to pick from, you can get a big guy or a fast guy,
Mhm.
and that might cause him to drop too, just from pure volume available here. So I would, especially if he shows up with a faster 40 time at the combine, I would consider moving him on up as well, Austin. So I think that's a very good point. I don't wait for combine numbers for everybody. For some of these players, I've already seen enough. I don't care what their combine number turns out to be. But for a guy like him, I would be very interested to see what that number turned out to be. All of his numbers. Shane, final word, man.
Well, I think, like Austin said, for the 50, right around there, I think that's definitely the ceiling for him. I think even if he tests right along with what Austin says, that's probably the high end of where I would go with him. The one thing watching film that really stuck me, and again, it might just be the development of the player I'm going to mention and not really his decline. But you mentioned at the beginning of the season, Ben, he had huge games against lesser opponents. Indiana State, huge game. Old Dominion, a huge game. The beginning of the season, he also was, he wasn't Surratt. He wasn't the number one choice, but he was probably the number two.
Right.
As the season got going and it got more difficult, he became the third choice
Hmm.
behind Surratt and behind Baker.
Yeah.
If you're going to go into a draft year and you drop back behind another player, I think that makes it very difficult for you to shine when people, just your average person, is looking at him. I know going into the draft, everyone's going to watch every single second of his film and break it down. I think Austin said it the best. Average is what I get. Is he 1,000 times better than I'll ever be? 100%. But I also don't. I'm also not going to play in the NFL as a wide receiver. So if the guy that you're going to draft, the best thing that you can say about him is average, I think that puts you real hard to make it into that top 50. Because in the numbers that we've talked about with wide receivers and some of those other offensive positions, we've put an awful lot of guys that are right in that field, and I think he's lesser than them. I think Austin's pull of Burden is excellent. I see a lot of it in him. But again, with Burden, people could always go, oh, he's going to burn you every once in a while. I don't see that right here with him, and I think that's going to hurt him in the draft.
Everybody, thank y'all so much for watching. That is Omar Cooper, and this is Pro Football Enterprises. We will keep on from now till almost right before the draft, putting out these offensive prospects here on this channel. We also do defensive guys, but we post those over on the Box Score Network YouTube channel. So if you're hungering for some of the defensive guys that we've put out, we've already put out a bunch. Go check that out as well. That's Omar Cooper. Austin, Shane, well done as always. Thank you very much. Have a great one. Goodbye.